Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Canadian Shield. My name is Sterling, and I'm your host. So the NDP has put forward this motion that they're going to put another tax on Canadian food on companies that somehow they, in their mind, in their twisted little vision of the world, they think that the tax won't be passed on to me and you as Canadians. They got it in their head that they're going to be activists. And that's what happens when you elect an activist. When you elect activists, you get what activists are chasing and how they don't understand the way the world actually functions. So the three of them, three parties were represented on the Power Play show by Vassy, and I thought it was kind of engaging. But it's good to see the three of them contrasted beside one another without all of the hoopla and without all of the people, the clamoring of the staged questions and things like that. And so the NDP fella was there because it's their idea to put this punitive tax on grocery stores for making money, while they think that in their head it's going to keep food cheaper. Like, I don't know why these politicians think that if you tax them, it's somehow going to make your life better. I understand that they are flat broke and they are desperate to start having money, but they should learn economic policy and then realize what they were doing. Unfortunately, because of the program that they have with the Liberal Party, there's nothing we can do about it. We just got to sit there and watch them rack up the bills that's going to make our great-great-grandchildren still have debts to pay. Shameful, really. All right, before I get into it, I would encourage you to like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share this channel with your friends. Let's do this.
Canadian grocery bills have skyrocketed up more than 20% over the past 3 years. New data out today from Leger found 64% of Canadians think the prices they're seeing at grocery stores are continuing to get worse. Add to that a brand new report out from Food Banks Canada, which shows 1 in 4 Canadians face food insecurity and 1 in 10 are living in poverty. Into a debate on what the solution might look like with MPs. Talib Noor Mohammed is the Minister of Heritage's Parliamentary Secretary. Next to him, Andrew Scheer is the Conservatives' House Leader. And next to him, Don Davies is the NDP's Finance Critic. Hi, everybody. It's nice to see you. Thank you very much for making the time for the conversation. Mr. Noor Mohammed, I'll start with you. The Prime Minister at one point a number of months ago said no way, no how to the windfall tax, that it would be bad economics and essentially be passed on to consumers. Your government then threatened the use of it when last fall it was promising to force grocers to stabilize prices. What is your government's position? Are you in favor of what the NDP is proposing? To be clear, one grocer, after 2 years of fighting it, has now come on board. That's Loblaw. Walmart and Costco are still outstanding. Your government has not been clear about whether you're willing to force that, to make it mandatory through legislation. And I didn't hear an answer on whether or not you're supportive of what the NDP is proposing around an excess profit tax. Yes or no, does your government support such a tax? Indicating or insinuating or implying that inflation isn't something that was experienced elsewhere. But food prices in Canada have gone up by 20% over 3 years. Do you think it matters to Canadians if it's also going up in other parts of the world?
Now, it's cold comfort
I'm not
to
talking
folks
about
today.
I understand the long term. Yeah, exactly. What about the short term? People who have 20% higher bills? And beyond that, there is something that Food Banks Canada and other organizations like them have asked for. It's very specific. It's called a grocery and essentials benefit. Is your government in favor of that?
I think it is one of the things that we should certainly be looking at.
What more evidence do you need? It's been years.
Well, you've now seen a grocer. You've seen Loblaws, who's been reticent to come on board, and they have now come on board. And now action is going to. We are now going to hopefully see some action.
Now, I know that you might think to yourself that I somehow cut out any of the things that he had to say, but it's all the same liberal talking points, right? Somehow in his mind, it's all the Conservatives' fault. And now that even though it's been many years, because they got Loblaws to say we're going to sign on to this toothless document about the grocer ethics or something like that, that Metro's not signed on to, Sobeys hasn't signed on to, Walmart hasn't signed on to, and Costco hasn't signed on to, somehow this is going to have a strong impact on the food prices of you and I. Now, I think Mrs. Capellos asked a great question. Do you care what's happening around the world when you go into the grocery store? Do we not want to tell ourselves that the reason people want to come here is because we were better than the rest of the world for things like food and lodging, for standard of living? Is it okay that we have lowered our standard of living to match the rest of the world? Is it okay with you that our food prices are through the roof because they also might have food insecurity in other countries? Let me know down in the comments. Okay, so now we'll go into Andrew Scheer, who, if I'm honest with you, really could hold his own against Ms. Capellos, who, I don't know what her politics are. I'm sure but she does work for, the mainstream media. However, having said all that, she sometimes gets kind of, kind of old school reporter.
First of all, I have to address a couple of things that were said that are just not true. Prices aren't going up in Canada because of global phenomena. Prices are going up in Canada because Justin Trudeau massively flooded the economy with brand new cash printed out of thin air. More dollars chasing fewer goods caused the inflation crisis that Canadians are suffering through. In addition, the carbon tax. The carbon tax adds costs everywhere along the supply chain. And the Bank of Canada governor acknowledged that the carbon tax itself is a significant contributor to inflation across the board, but specifically on food. Before we talk about, task forces and new taxes, why not eliminate the easiest culprit to go after, which is the government's carbon tax? That could be repealed tomorrow. He's doubling down. The most important takeaway for Canadians as they examine these issues is to know that Justin Trudeau is following the exact same set of policies that caused the misery in the first place. He's not changing course. He's not admitting the error of his ways. He's going to keep hiking that carbon tax.
You heard my line of questioning. How would a Conservative government make my bill any different at the grocery store?
Well, I've never known a tax hike to lower prices. Getting rid of a tax will absolutely lower prices. And to stabilize inflation, we will restore budget sanity by bringing in a dollar for dollar loss so that all the extra new spending that Justin Trudeau is unleashing the economy stops. That's the essential part. We have to preserve the power of the paychecks that Canadians work so hard to get. Every time Justin Trudeau floods our economy with new money, that devalues what someone has taken home in the form of their paycheck. They can buy less with it. And the government absolutely is responsible for that. Justin Trudeau was the one selling all those government bonds.
So all of inflation will go away when Conservatives stop spending more?
No. Wait. When the government stops making money out of thin air, that is when you control inflation. And that has to happen. It's not happening with Justin Trudeau. He's borrowing billions and billions more.
We've known this about the economy for more than 1,000 years. It's simple mathematics, right? If you got a lot of stuff, if everybody got the same thing, the value of it is less. If you got a rare thing like a diamond, the value of it is more. It's simple. It's not a big, you don't have to graduate from MIT to understand that basic economic concept. It's been that way since, there are records of the Greeks talking about stopping how much money they were manufacturing when they were like the predominant society on the earth. So that's thousands of years, many hundreds at least. Okay, now the real, wow, I'm just saying, just let me say right now, wow.
Mr. Davies, I want to get the NDP in on this because you're the one proposing this excess windfall tax or excess profit tax. What evidence do you have that it would actually lower prices for Canadians?
The Competition Tribunal last summer in June stated that grocery prices are rising at the fastest level in 40 years. At the same time, you have millions of Canadians experiencing food insecurity. As you pointed out, 1 in 4 people in this country between the ages of 18 and 24 are going to food banks. It's clearly greedflation. We had
That's not a real word.
Major grocery chains in this country in 1984. We now have 5. There's 5 major grocery chains. And in our view, they are clearly abusing their monopoly in the marketplace to gouge consumers. Canadians aren't going to the grocery stores buying more food than they ever did before. There's no increased demand for food. Food demand is the same. It's the prices. It's the.
But my question to you, Mr. Davies, respectfully, was whether or not adding an extra tax to these stores will actually lower the price for consumers. Because to Mr. Scheer's point, normally when a corporation or anybody else is taxed in excess or extra taxation, they will pass that on to the consumers. What is to prohibit that from happening?
Not necessarily.
And you're sure that this tax is going to make the difference?
The UK has done it. 20 European countries have done it. And
well, actually, they've done. That's not true. Some of those European countries have only levied it on oil and gas companies, which did see a far bigger increase in profit margins, not on grocery stores. Only Portugal is the only country I could find who did that.
The sectors change, but the device works the same. Now, the thing about an excess profits tax is it does a couple things. It sends a message to the industry that any attempt to gouge will be met with excess taxes. Second of all, it returns some tax dollars to the government for the subsidies that we've given them. You might remember that this government gave $26 million to these major companies for freezers. And finally, what it does, it provides a source of money for a national school nutrition program and to give a GST rebate to Canadians that will put money in their pockets and actually help them buy for the food.
I have time for one 30-second final point from each.
So there you heard it. The NDP's idea is that it's going to make you rich. If they put more tax on your food and drive the cost of your food up, they're going to be able to make your GST and put more money in your pocket. It's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. If you told the carbon tax gives the average family, the average single male in Ontario gets, I think, $500 extra a year. If you told them that was what they were getting, would they tell you that inflation's more than that? All right, sorry. She's going to wrap now.
All that we can with industry, and if industry isn't prepared to play ball, we've got lots of tools in the arsenal we're prepared to use. So
but you haven't really answered at what point you make that determination. Like, isn't 20% enough of a place to make a move? Does Mr. Mohammed have a point, Mr. Scheer, that you're offering one solution around the carbon tax that won't actually do much of a lot for Canadians at the grocery store?
Well, I think the important thing to remember is that we're offering a solution. They're just offering more of the same failed policies that caused the crisis in the first place. Why not start with the low-hanging fruit? The second the finance minister comes into the House of Commons and tables a motion to eliminate the carbon tax, that comes off. That comes off immediately. Why not do that first? We know it's ineffective on the environment side. We know it's costing
Because it might not be the
Canadians,
most effective thing for the cost of living.
But it is absolutely the simplest thing to do, and it will have a real impact. All this data shows that, yes, the carbon tax adds to inflation and it adds to the increased cost of food prices. We could also start with stopping the Liberal practice of underwriting some of these large grocery chains with some of the handouts that they've given away from tax dollars and focus more on preserving the power of your paycheck by fixing the budget, ensuring that inflation comes down and interest rates come down, and eliminating the carbon tax so there's more money in people's pockets.
Look, your colleagues have both pointed out that there are other things. For example, the subsidies to grocery stores. You're supporting the government that's making those to fix their fridges and things like that. Aren't there other ways beyond this tax that you could address the issue for Canadians?
Actually, right now, Canadians, millions of them, are hungry and they're hurting. What the Liberals want to do is go cap in hand to the industry to listen and talk. What the Conservatives want to do is protect corporate.
He's so out of touch, that guy. You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand how the NDP can look anybody in the face and try to criticize the Liberals. If you really want to criticize the Liberals, then you should stop supporting them. I don't. You guys sign contracts all the time that you break. You make all kinds of legislation that you change. So don't go talking to me about how, I'm trying to keep my word and blah, blah, blah. The reality is that no matter what you say, you are keeping the Liberals in power. All of the policies that the Liberals put forth are because that they can accomplish is because of the NDP. We can say whatever you want about not liking Freeland or Trudeau or any of the front bench there, the cabinet, or any of the members of the Liberal Party. Trust me when I tell you, I see character flaws in very many of them, and I watch this stuff a lot. What I can't fathom is how the NDP thinks that we're not paying attention to the fact that they're the ones that are enabling is the word that they would use, enabling all of these problems, right? They're enabling the Liberals to get away with this without having any accountability, without having to be held into account. And I think that as a country, we should be saying that out loud, right? I think that it's one thing to say, that it's one thing to say, well, the guy is not a good human being, a good person, whatever. Maybe he has character flaws, but is it his mother or his parents that are allowing him to get away with it, right? If he was a rich kid and he was acting like crazy and smashing up his car all the time, we would say the parents have to do something about it. So enabling has to end, right? I mean, maybe that's a clumsy analogy, but it holds still true, right? That the NDP is sitting there trying to have their cake and eat it too. And I think that that's kind of sickening. All right, I'm going to wrap here. I want to thank you all for listening, and I would appreciate it if you would like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share this channel with your friends. I have memberships, and I have a open GoFundMe. So if you want to help either one of those, I also would appreciate it. Talk to you later.